Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today first is some house cleaning notes. We'll get to that in a minute. And then I'm going to talk about the goings on in most of the annals of pro wrestling. Now, first, some house cleaning. So first things first, I will not be able to buy a lot of the pay-per-views coming up, so I will be missing those. However, I'm not going to uncover them. I will give you results along with, my Pro Wrestling Weekly Roundup. It's at least I can do. Then, going forward, my plan is to reconnect with some content that I've definitely been neglecting, and that's the MCU. So, look for some very subtle changes here and there. I will still be covering the weekly wrestling stuff, so Raw, Power, AEW Dynamite, Impact, MLW, SmackDown and Rampage when possible, and Collision. So stay tuned for all of that, and then I'll probably end up doing select pay-per-views. So like the Royal Rumble, maybe a future couple of AEW shows, just something to lighten the load a little bit. And that'll do it for now. We'll get into the big video, we start off with NWA Power. Now, I didn't watch Raw this past week because I was busy watching my Jets get their stomped by the Chargers. So, instead of starting off with Raw, I am going to start off with Power, which we start off with the Southern Six, that's Kerry Morton and Alex Taylor, taking on the Heat Seekers, who are former NWA Tag Team Champions. Although it was before Power was a thing, so this was a very, very fun tag team match. Really good back and forth between the two. I'm surprised Thrillbilly Silas Mason wasn't out there, but I do understand. We'll get to Silas a bit later. And then after a kiss of goodbye from Kerry Morton, a green whistle from Taylor, your winners, the Southern Six. We then get a kind of video vignette of Who Wants to Be a Spectacular, featuring Ronaldo and Rush Freeman, who are openly recruiting for their team, which could be interesting, could be a very interesting name a way to get someone else in the tag team. So we'll see what happens there. We then get a Southern Six, that's everybody, podium promo. They're ringside, they have the big podium, that's a cool aesthetic to me. I like that. Where pretty much they say, we're the reasons we're going to be selling out the upcoming show in Florida. And everyone wants to get a piece of us. And thank us for selling out that arena. And because of us, there's going to be big cards. And all the goofs in this arena are going to want to shake our hands. And while there's no comp tickets, we are the stars of the NWA, and we're going to put down anyone they put up against us. So, some big words from the Southern Six. We'll see if they can back it up. We then roll right into the NWA Women's TV title match as Missa Kate takes on Max the Impaler. Now, this does start out with like the usual Max the Impaler matches, dominating from the jump. Missa Kate does get some stuff in, but after he missed senton and then a big old clothesline, your winner, Max the Impaler. Then we get an interview from a brand new team, the King Bees, who thanked the NWA for the opportunity. We've been working hard to get exposure by this, but don't take our excitement for weakness. We came ready for a fight, and fight we will. So they're going to have their debut match next week against the NWA Women's Tag Team Champions, which, that could be interesting. I'm not really familiar with the King Bees, so it's going to be interesting to see how they work. Then we get a backstage EC3 interview, which he says pretty much, still the champ, still the overman, bring on my next challenger. It's revealed that the next challenger for their big show in Florida is Jax Dane, who walks into the shot. Pretty much says, Billy Corgan has been protecting that title ever since Power started. And then he stuck me with Tim Storm, and you know how that ended. EC3, you're definitely a different man, but you're a man who stepped up to me. And while I'm not as famous as you, and I don't panhandle for likes on the internet, I am dangerous, and your overman reality is coming to a close. EC3 retorts, I have a lot of respect for you, man, Jax. And I like the way you handle your business. I like what you've done in your life. While you all have all this success in the business world and your real life, I'm the one holding the title. And this is all that matters to me. And I'm not here to make any business proposals. And I'm ascending the title back up to a prestige where it should be. And I've already beaten guys like you. So, definitely some shots from EC3. We'll see how that match goes. Should be a very fun one. Next up, we got non-title action as the Blunt Force Trauma, who are the NWA Tag Team Champions, take on Magic Inc. That's Magic Jake DeMoss and Cody James. Before the bell rings, BFT jump Magic Inc. Bell then rings. We get Carnage starting it off against Magic Jake. Carnage does dominate for a little bit, but Jake with a bit of a low blow. They go back and forth for a little bit. On the outside, you see Aaron Stevens kind of walking around, kind of barking orders a little bit. And then CJ kind of goes after him. That's enough of a distraction for BFT to have Magic Inc. get an advantage. And they're trading blows a little bit. Couple of spine busters, big old clothesline. A cutter for a 2 count from Magic Jake, which that was impressive. But then Aaron Stevens with his loaded glove, bam, right to Cody James's jaw while the ref was distracted, and that leads to a BFT win. Post-match, BFT attack Magic Inc. It looks like they're going to hit their double team finish on Cody James, but then CJ with a low blow to Aaron Stevens, which that's ow. And CJ and Magic Jake save Cody James from further damage. So, I'm going to say this. I wouldn't mind Magic Inc. going for the tag titles here. I think they are a very, well, kind of Franken team-ish. I feel like they've worked very well together. Plus, I do extremely love the, corny aesthetic to these guys. It's kind of a throwback to the origins of pro wrestling, which were competitions in, little carnivals. Look it up. It's fascinating. Anyway, we go to a backstage interview with Blake Truth and Koa Laksamana, including their respective managers, with Chris Silvio Esquire hyping up Blake Truth, saying, "My man, we're not just focusing on his strengths. He has no weaknesses, and no one is on the power level of Truth's game." Blake Truth then gets the microphone and says, "There's a lot of guys here not on my level. There's not a lot of guys who really know how to fight. Koa does. And it'll be an honor to share the ring with you." Then Koa starts up. He pretty much says, "Well, you do. Well, your only real advantage is that you have a couple of pounds on me. I still think I'm going to put up a fight." And then Koa's manager, who I apologize, I forget her name, pretty much says, "Yeah, let's stop this panhandling. Koa is going to kick Blake Truth's butt," which, nice forward. We'll see where this goes, because I do like Koa Laksamana. He is he still needs some things to really get going, but he's a pretty dang good wrestler. Then we get a podium interview, which I love the podium interviews. Keep those going. With the women's tag team champions, Pretty Empowered. So the interviewer mentions how their opponents for next week have been trained by Jazz, who has had some connections with NWA kind of late last year, but then she's kind of fallen off, which I'm a little sad. I kind of miss seeing Jazz, even if she didn't wrestle. So Pretty Empowered pretty much say, "Let's address something. Jazz, I'll be first to admit, we would not be as pretty without you. But what are you thinking bringing these two in here? We're going to break them down, spit them up, and it's pretty obvious that Pretty Empowered is pretty damn good." A lot of pretty in that sentence. And we always have targets on our back when we hold the tag team titles, which is why we have security, and why you all are just haters. Now, in this segment, they're surrounded by security guards with Pretty Empowered t-shirts. Wondering if anyone's going to get in the ring. This kind of has vibes of, if you remember in TNA's past, when Billy Gunn joined up with the Beautiful People. That was Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. Is it going to be kind of that situation going forward? I guess we'll see. And actually, speaking of Pretty Empowered, it is time for our main event for Power, as the NWA Women's Champion, Kenzie Page, takes on Taylor Rising in a non-title match. And honestly, this was a dang good showing by Taylor Rising. Paige, watching her growth on Power and on the pay-per-views has been really, really fun. Watching Taylor Rising kind of go on the same path, or at least a very similar path, has been really cool. And I know Taylor is fairly new to NWA, so we'll see what happens there. And honestly, these two worked really, really good together. But ultimately, after a Kenzie cutter from out of nowhere, your winner, Kenzie Page. Now, Kenzie goes to attack Taylor after the match, but now Natalia Markova tries to make the save. She gets about to ringside, but then security kind of stops her and holds her back. But then Taylor just rolls out the ring and they walk off. So, it does look like Markova is still in the title run. I'm not sure where they would do this, but could be interesting. And honestly, great showing from Taylor Rising. Excited to see where she goes from here. Alright, that was NWA Power. We then move on to AEW Dynamite, which was a heck of a lot better than it's been in previous couple weeks. Not saying Dynamite has been bad at all, but it's been okay. I'll say that. So we start off, as usual, MJF interview. Pretty much says, Jay White, all it took was 3 seconds for you to beat me. I want you to savor those 3 seconds from last week because it's not happening again. So then MJF calls Adam Cole, who then puts it up on a screen backstage where Cole pretty much says, look, MJF, I'm worried about you, man. You got a full plate coming for Full Gear. And I want you to take Joe up, still want you to take Joe up on his offer to tag with you against the Guns for the Ring of Honor tag team titles. MJF then replies, look, Cole, I'm happy you're worried about me, but I can handle this myself. I can beat the Guns on my own. And just wait and see. Then Daniel Garcia comes in, pretty much saying, oh, you think you can handle me? You think you can just beat me just like that? Then MJF replies, look, Danny, the only reason I give you this opportunity is because I see a little bit of the old me in you. And you've been a proven talent ever since you got here. Now, here's the question. Tonight, am I going to get the sports entertainer or am I going to get the wrestler? And Daniel Garcia says, you're going to see the wrestler out there. So Garcia and 2.0 walk off. Then in comes Adam! Of course, it's Roderick Strong and the Kingdom. Roddy's like hyping himself up a little bit, saying, look, I'm pretty much a wrestling god, and I could give you some tips to compete out there. MJF then replies, look, you were a great talent back in the day, but nowadays, you're nothing more than a complete joke. And I got a match tonight, and walks off. Then Roderick Strong, who then sees Cole, pretty much says, can you believe this, Adam? Isn't this exactly what a devil would do? But then, without really replying, Adam Cole just walks out of the shot. So, yeah, we'll see what happens between Cole, Strong, and I'm going to say this MJF story, where he's pretty much attacked on all sides, has been so entertaining. It's been so good. And then we go into our first match of the evening, and it's for the AEW World Title. It's Daniel Garcia challenges MJF. And oh boy, this showing. This was an absolute great match. Maybe not perfect, because there were some missteps here and there. like a pretty gnarly pile driver. But luckily that only goes for a 2 count. End of the day, Garcia locks in the Lion Tamer, but then MJF slips out of it. Salt of the earth armbar for the submission victory. So MJF keeps his title. MJF then looks to Garcia, goes to shake his hand. Garcia is about to reciprocate, but then Matt Menard and Angelo Parker get involved and stop him, push him out of the ring, and they go up the ramp. Then we get a Mark Briscoe versus Jay White vignette and their match history, including a couple of tag team matches from back in the day of Ring of Honor, which, that's interesting. We then go to our next matchup of the evening, and it's tag team action. We got Darby Allin and the Stinger taking out Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd, the Outrunners. Glad to see Outrunners on my TV again. And honestly, the Outrunners got a lot of really good offense in. A lot of smooth tags. But at one point, they take too long gloating. Stinger with a couple of clotheslines. Couple of Scorpion Stinger splashes and coffin splashes by Darby and Sting. And then Scorpion Deathlock to pick up the submission victory for Sting and Darby Allin. So, very fun match. And we're going to see where Sting goes from here. We then get, I think, easily the best thing in the women's division today. We get a backstage black and white interview with not only Timeless Toni Storm, but the AEW Women's Champion, Hikaru Shida. And then somehow Tony Schiavone knew they were in black and white, which I kind of would have rather them not acknowledge that. Because I think it would have made it a little bit better. And Shida starts off the interview asking, Tony, what the heck happened to you, man? In which Tony pretty much piped up, what happened to me? You happened to me, Shida. I'd be all fine and well. I would have been coming out of Wembley as the women's champion, but then you got the title. And I would have been fine with that if I would have won again in a triple threat a few weeks later. But then you happened again. And I just want that title. I want it 1v1. And then Shida retorts, well, you couldn't make history, so you became history. Which, yeah, pretty much. Then they both sign the contract. And then Tony's like, okay, see you at Full Gear. Which, I think that match is going to be a lot of fun. I was kind of hoping for some sort of stipulation for it, but, at least they're giving some story to the women's division, which is all I wanted. Next up, we got Swerve Strickland versus Penta El Zero Miedo in a wild match, including a couple times Swerve trying to take off Penta's mask, trying to unmask him. If you don't know, in lucha culture, if you lose a mask, it's like a great disrespect. That's why in AAA and other promotions, they have a little mask versus mask match. It's pretty big time. Like I said, a lot of really good back and forth, including Swerve countering at a Penta driver, which that was impressive. Trading arm snaps, which that's always brutal. Penta tries for the Fear Factor. Swerve with the Death Valley driver. Into the Swerve Stomp to pick up the victory. Post-match, Swerve again goes after Penta's mask, trying to open it. In comes Hangman Adam Page with a steel chair, and just, while at first Swerve runs up the ramp, Hangman meets him on the top of the ramp and just starts wailing on him with this chair. It's honestly kind of wild. Security comes out, tries to stop Hangman. Hangman with a couple of chair shots to them. And then Hangman with a dead eye to Swerve off the stage through a couple of tables. And yeah, I'm definitely okay with this feud continuing. Although I do hope eventually Swerve does get a bit more of a push up the card. No offense to Hangman. I love Hangman. But I think Swerve needs a push more than Hangman does at this point. We then get a backstage promo from Bullet Club Gold. That's Switchblade Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns, Austin and Colton. Pretty much says, obviously I beat you last week, and this is why I still have the Bang Bang belt. And while Bullet Club Gold did take a little bit of a hiatus from Collision this week, we did tune in, and we saw some pathetic action from MJF. And while the best you can come up with to insult me was tofu, this is obviously MJF's world, and we are going to take everything away from MJF that he truly cares about. And MJF, I'm truly better than you. I'm truly elite. And I'm going to beat you at Full Gear and take the title you covet so much. We then get a vignette for the upcoming 4-on-4 street fight between the Don Callis family, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Chris Jericho, and Paul White, which is intercut with a street fighting video game. I'm not sure what that was. We then roll right into an interview with Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, with Jericho pretty much saying Don Callis and his family didn't realize we had other friends and we had some backup. And at that street fight, they're going to have a surprise of their life. Then the Young Bucks cut in. They pretty much says, look at you guys. You're like the newest tag team in here. You got a name and everything. You even got a new t-shirt. You know what was a cool name? The Elite. And we don't understand why you needed Chris Jericho to team up with you when we were right here. Jericho interrupts, pretty much saying, well, you didn't have his back when he was getting beat up by Powerhouse Hobbs a few weeks ago. Young Bucks interrupt, pretty much saying, look, the three of us, we created AEW so you could be here. And Jericho, all you did was cash in checks, which, dang, shots fired. Jericho then reiterates, look, while you did start AEW, I put you guys on the map. And Omega and I were the two best to do this. And I think we could beat the two of you. And obviously there's a big show coming up. So at Full Gear, we get Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks. Which, okay, that's interesting. And then Matt says, I want to put a little steam on this. No, Jericho does. I want to put a little steam on this. Why don't you two put that tag team title shot you have in your pocket, and when we win, you give that to us. And then Matt replies, okay, I can see that. But when we win, this little team breaks up and Kenny Omega comes back to the Elite. Kenny then pipes up pretty much saying, look, guys, I really don't want to wrestle you, but I have beaten you before with Hangman Page, and I can do it again, and I'm gonna beat you so bad that you finally start acting like adults. And then Kenny walks off. Chris Jericho leans into the Young Bucks, pretty much saying, I cannot wait to take you behind the woodshed. Which, that's definitely a phrase I didn't need to hear. Next up, we got the ROH television title on the line as Keith Lee challenges Samoa Joe. And yeah, this was a pretty dang good house fight. A lot of good, really good back and forth between one another. Trading holds. Trading some big moves. Eventually, Joe surprises Keith Lee with a coquina clutch, in which Keith Lee, instead of submitting, he passes out and Joe gets the win. Post-match, Samoa Joe gets a microphone and he pretty much says, what stands before you is the greatest Ring of Honor television champion of all time, but I didn't come here just to be television champion. I'm hungry for more. So tonight, I'm going to vacate the Ring of Honor television title, and the next gold I want is the AEW World title. And MJF, that's going down whether you like it or not. Here's my thing about this. I have heard a lot of discord about this, saying, oh, that desecrates the Ring of Honor television title. I mean, does it though? Because, like, we have seen, these title cash-ins before. You had Option C in TNA/Impact with the X Division title. That doesn't seem to hurt it. You had the Gift of the Gods title in Lucha Underground, which I think something like that needs to come back. I love that title. So you have the NWA television title where you get certain defenses. After that, you can cash in for a world title shot, which I kind of like. If there was some stipulation like that attached to the Ring of Honor TV title, I think more people would be okay with it. But with Samoa Joe just saying, yeah, I'm just going to leave this here, it does make Ring of Honor feel a little lesser. And I know technically it's the NXT to what NXT is to WWE. I kind of feel like this could have been handled better. Like, no one went over in this, and now the title's just in limbo. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a plan going forward with the Ring of Honor TV title. Who knows? We then get tag team action as the Guns, Bullet Club Gold, take on the Bollywood Boys. Very good to see them in an AEW ring. And this was pretty much a very extended squash match with the Guns pretty much hitting 310 to Yuma right at the beginning to pick up the win. Then the Guns get on the microphone, pretty much say, "Hey Max, why do you keep lying to these people? You're not a generational talent. You got your title stolen from you. You got your friend hurt. That isn't what a generational talent does. And we've never been told no. We were made for TV. And we're going to be the next Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Because we are generational talent. And you're nothing more than an embarrassment as Tag Team Champion. And as for your partner for Full Gear, why don't you just choose someone from the crowd? Because they're the only ones that seem to really like you. And we're going to get these titles back into the hands of a real tag team. Which, kind of shots fired at MJF, which I definitely okay with. We then get to see footage of MJF backstage. He's watching this promo on a screen. Then Joe walks up behind him. MJF takes one look at him and just walks off. So, we're definitely gonna see what happens here. Next up, we got a backstage promo with Jon Moxley and kind of Wheeler Yuta. And he pretty much says, I knew I shouldn't have let Cassidy off the hook. Cassidy is obviously stepping on my turf. Blackpool Combat Club are nothing but dominant hunters here in AEW. And what are you trying to teach Hook? That he can just do whatever he wants? You don't deserve to make it to Full Gear. And as soon as we land, it's going to be gang warfare when we land in LA. And then Wheeler Yuta just kind of jumps up at the end. Hey, Hook. See you in LA. So, does look like we're going to get some sort of brawl between the Blackpool Combat Club and Cassidy, Hook, and, whoever else. So, definitely could be a fun little thing. We then get a nice Wardlow vignette, pretty much showing, pretty much reiterating what he's been saying to MJF, that he's going to take his title when he least expects it. So, it kind of has the vibes of, when Stewie was a bully to Brian Griffin and Family Guy when he took those steroids. And then when they wore off, he got some receipts. It kind of feels like that's where this is going. But either way, should be a fun one. Next match up, we got the women's division as Julia Hart takes on the returning Red Velvet. Red Velvet has been out for a while. Poor woman has been injured for a little bit, but now she's back, and honestly, maybe some ring rust, but overall she looked really, really good. I do think eventually she's going to get a little more, when she gets a little bit more time, she'll be better. Julia Hart with the moonsault to pick up the win. Post-match, she gets Red Velvet in a Heartless submission, which brings out Sky Blue. They just have a little stare down for a minute. Then out comes Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale. They're all standing in the ring. Nightingale helps Red Velvet up. And Julia Hart just leaves the ring. So, Does look like Julia Hart is a bit outnumbered. We'll see what she does about it. Next up, we got the newest AEW signing, Mariah May, who is of Stardom fame. Now she's crossing over, and now she is in AEW. Saying she's happy to be here. Pretty much following the career path of one Toni Storm. When can I introduce myself to Toni? Interviewer says, I can do that next week if you want. I know exactly where she's going to be. And then Mariah pretty much kisses RJ City on the cheek. And she's kind of schoolgirling out. So, it looks like we got another step in the development of Toni Storm. It looks like she's going to get an understudy, which, if they're going to do what they did with Miz and Damian Sandow in WWE, I think that could be a lot of fun. Although, we'll see what happens there. Then we roll into our main event match, in which it's Mark Briscoe taking on Switchblade Jay White, and it's for Switchblade's shot at the AEW title at Full Gear. And honestly, this match was a lot of fun. Like, both guys really, really do have it. A lot of really, really good back and forth, including a countered Uranagi, bunch of leg whips. Jay White with a Kiwi Crusher, which is, I guess, an old school move he used in New Japan. That only gets a 2 count. Mark Briscoe blocks an attempt at a Blade Runner. God, Mark Briscoe destroying Jay White's knees with a couple of knee tremblers. But then after a certain time, after a brain buster, a Blade Runner, so your winner is Switchblade Jay White. So he's going to continue his quest for the AEW World title. Although he does physically hold it, MJF is technically the champion. So this brings out MJF. He walks straight down to the ring. Actually, no, his music plays. Bullet Club Gold are all looking on the ramp. He slips in behind, puts on the Dynamite Diamond Ring, punches out Juice, pushes out Austin and Colton, and it's just down to him and Jay White. Jay White looks like he's going to attack MJF with the title belt, but instead he just rolls out and bails up the ramp. MJF then gets a microphone. He says, Jay, look at me. I hope you've had fun playing dress up as champion, but playtime is almost up. And when you gonna get in the ring with me, I'm gonna go down as the greatest AEW champion of all time, or I'm gonna die trying. And that's the point. Jay White, if you really want to take this title from me, you're gonna have to kill me to do it. And for the first time ever, I'm fighting everyone who has had my back since day one. And at Full Gear, you're either going to pull the trigger or you're going to lose. Then we get cut to footage backstage of the Acclaimed getting attacked by the Devil's minions. So that concerns MJF. MJF then bolts it right to the back, gets to where the attack is taking place, but the attackers are long gone. Then Samoa Joe rolls up, pretty much says to MJF, you're running out of friends there, champ, and walks off. And then split second of the devil character on the screen, and that's pretty much it. A lot of discourse on who the devil is going to end up being. lot of people are saying it's going to be Cole. I see a lot of people saying it's going to be CM Punk, in which that would be interesting. Either way, we're in for a ride, and I know a lot of people are expecting him to unmask at Full Gear. I think we're going to wait until World's End. I think we're going to wait until that year-end pay-per-view, end the year with a bang. And honestly, that's just me. And who is it? I think it's going to be Cole. Like, that's... Overall, it makes sense it would be Cole. Outside shot, I'd say it's CM Punk, but with the problem he's had with the company and certain wrestlers have had with him, I guess that's maybe a wait and see. But either way, that was Dynamite. We then finish up with a pretty dang strong episode of Impact Wrestling. Now, this episode was filmed the day after Bound for Glory, so Impact has kind of been sitting on this for a little while. But overall, very fun show. As we start off with Tasha Steele taking on Deonna Purrazzo. These two teamed up at Bound for Glory, although it wasn't shown for whatever reason. So we kind of got highlights of it before this match gets started. This match was a lot of fun to watch. It did slowly start, but then it kind of got into new gears as it went along. But then after a couple of cutters, your winner, Tasha Steele, in which I'm very surprised Steele won here. It does seem like they're going to be building up her to get to another level. Maybe get back to the Knockouts title, which I'd be down for. So, next up, we got a backstage promo from Alex Shelley, our world champion. Pretty much says, Gresham, you're a lucky guy. Nobody knew I'd still be the champ tonight, but me, and you're a former world champion in your own right, and you're finally getting the opportunity you've been wanting, and may the best man win. So, kind of babyface-ish promo. We'll see that match later, don't you worry. Next, we get a promo from the new tag team champions, the ABC. They're gloating a little bit. And then at the first TNA pay-per-view, Hard to Kill, we're going to be the first TNA tag champs of this generation. In comes Santino Marella, pretty much saying, congratulations, guys. Let's see what we do moving forward. Then Shawn Dean and Kenny King roll in, with King pretty much saying, look, Santino, I've been looking for you forever. I just want my digital media title rematch. Santino then retorts, well, that title, Tommy Dreamer is in right now entangled with Crazy Steve. However, let me give you a little different shot, and I'll give you a tag team title shot next week. Kenny King's a little distraught. No, that's not what I asked for. That's not really what I want. And then Santino says, well, that's tough, because you're getting it. So, we'll see what happens there coming up. Next up, we got the digital media title on the line, as Crazy Steve, who cashed in his Feast or Fired case for this shot, takes on Tommy Dreamer. And, this was definitely a bit of a brutal matchup. Crazy Steve going for all kinds of bites, going for, cuts in between the fingers, and eventually he does get his fork. He goes for an attack to Tommy Dreamer's eyeball. Tommy Dreamer reverses it, knocks it out of his hand. Then Dreamer picks it up and just starts right into Crazy Steve's head, which causes a DQ, which the winner technically is Crazy Steve, but still your digital media champion, Tommy Dreamer. Post-match, Tommy Dreamer still with the fork attacks to the head. Steve eventually rolls out to the outside, and so it does look like this feud is continuing for now. So we'll see how this finishes up. I had a feeling this first match wouldn't be their last encounter, so we'll see what happens there. Next up, we have a Jonathan Gresham interview. Pretty much saying, I've been living in a world where the rules don't fit the way I think they should, but I finally get what I've been waiting for, and tonight it's going to be talent over chaos, and I'm going to take that title by any means necessary. So, very fired up and motivated Gresham. We'll see how this goes. Next up, we got Brian Myers taking on Joe Hendry. A bit of a rematch from their rivalry over the digital media title. And, this match was pretty darn entertaining. Myers tries for a roster cut right off the bat, but that gets countered. A lot of definitely good back and forth moments. Eventually, Hendry unleashes a bunch of fallaway slams, which I am surprised Myers is still standing. DDT only for a 2 count. Powerbomb only for a 2. Then eventually Joe Hendry hits Myers with a standing ovation. Tries for the standing ovation. That gets blocked with an eye poke. Roster cut. So your winner, Brian Myers, which that was a surprising result. So it looks like Hendry might be going on a bit of a losing streak. So I guess we'll see what happens there. We then get a video vignette of an upcoming big match as Will Ospreay coming to Impact Wrestling proper to take on Josh Alexander. Now, Ospreay has had a couple matches in Impact before. He was at Bound for Glory. He was at Turning Point. But now he is on the weekly program, which is I'm hyped for. Not something I would think I'd be seeing, which that's really cool. We then roll right into a Will Ospreay interview in which he says, Josh Alexander, initially, I didn't know who you were. I knew you were a former world champion. So I went on the social medias and the YouTube. I looked you up. Holy crap, you could definitely be one of the best wrestlers in the world. You're really good, but no one is better than the Billy Goat. And that match next week is going to be so good. I can't wait. Next up, we got Eddie Edwards taking on Eric Young. And this match was a lot of fun too. A lot of good back and forth between the two. Alicia Edwards tried her hand around interfering, but that got thwarted. At one point, Edwards had the ref distracted. Actually, no, Edwards was holding Eric Young after a rep bump. Alicia Edwards tries to hit Eric Young with a kendo stick, but that gets hit on. But Eric Young dodges out of the way. Eddie Edwards gets hit with the shot. Pile driver to Eddie. So your winner is Eric Young. We then get Brian Myers. He's kind of walking around backstage. Then Moose walks in, congratulating him on his current win. Myers then asked, "Dude, where the heck were you, man?" I could have used you out there. Aren't we tag team partners? Moose replies, hey, you really didn't need me. Well, what was with you teaming with Matt Cardona in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet? And then Myers was like, oh, that was just a one-time thing. What about you and that case? Pointing to the Feast or Fired World title shot case. Oh, god damn it. And he throws in. He says, Myers, I want a piece of you, man. We got some unfinished business. Then Moose stands between them. If you got a problem with him, then you've obviously got a problem with me. Let's take care of our business next week. He's then like, I don't care if I gotta go through you or I gotta go through you. I'm getting revenge. So, nice little promo from them. We then get a Sonny Kiss interview, who's, they say, I'm really happy to be here. And while I didn't win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, I would really still like to challenge Trinity. Then Trinity walks in. They hug for a minute. Trinity then says, look, I've heard what you said. I could go talk to the board of directors here at Impact, and we could have that match next week. I could make it happen. Sonny's like, alright, let's do it. So, it looks like we're going to get a title match next week. Should be interesting. And honestly, it's good seeing Sonny Kiss back on my TV. I absolutely love them. Next up, we got a very interesting tag team match as Nick Diamond and Jackson Storm take on Dirty Dango and the debuting for Impact, Oleg Brudius, formerly known as Alex Kozlov, which, obviously it's been a while since he's wrestled. So Oleg and Nick started out. Then Dango gets down from the ring apron and goes to commentary, which, that's funny. Oleg is pretty much dominating these two on their own. Eventually, the two other guys get some offense in, but then Oleg with big power moves, including a big headbutt. Dango then gets up from the commentary table, gets back on the apron, tag, hits the exclamation point for the win for him and Oleg. Gonna be interesting to see how this team works. It's definitely been a while since I've seen Oleg have a match, and while he's not the most technical guy in the world, he brings all kinds of power. He's pretty much the perfect powerhouse for Dango's, shitty heel gimmick. Next up, we got a backstage promo from Jordan Grace, pretty much saying, I was the first knockout to win the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match, and I'm all ready for Trinity and to get my title back. Then Bully Ray comes in. Pretty much says, nice trophy. Then eventually Kylan King walks in. Pretty much says, your win at Bound for Glory was nothing but pure luck. I should have won that gauntlet match. Then Bully Ray tries to calm Kylan King down. Kylan King then replies, what was the first lesson you taught me at wrestling school? Never back down. So what's wrong with you, man? Then Steve Macklin walks in. Pretty much says, you know what's wrong with him? He's been soft. Then Bully Ray replies with, remember at Bound for Glory during your Monsters Ball match when I pushed you off the top rope into a board covered in barbed wire? Who was soft then? You only stand there because I let you. Then Steve Maclin walks off. Kylan King kind of leans in to Bully Ray, says, "What's going on with you, man?" And then she walks off. So it looks like we're getting a mixed tag team match in the near future. We then get a backstage promo from the Rascals, where Zach Wentz is pretty much like, I don't want to talk about us losing the title to the ABC. And over the years, Impact, you've met a number of Rascals. Well, let me introduce you to the young goat, Myron Reed, who walks down some stairs. Pretty much says, Impact Wrestling, let the young goat out of the cage. We're going to pack up everything and everyone. So, Myron Reed and Impact, it's been a long time coming. Hopefully it's not a super short reign, because, I think this team together would be a lot of fun. I'm almost done. And then, Fine Alamo, we got our main event of the evening for the Impact World title. It's Jonathan Gresham taking on Alex Shelley. And oh boy, this match was so damn good. It was pure wrestling at its finest. These two worked together extremely well. A lot of counters, a lot of surprise roll-ups for only two. Match ends with a super kick and a show shock for Alex Shelley to pick up the win. And honestly, that's going to be easily my match of the evening, and it's going to get my must-see match of approval. I think you all should search this match out and just take a look at it, because it was damn near perfect. Alright, that is it for me. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't, and you stay tuned for more content. Till next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.